This is Wander001 with my review of the Razer DeathAdder. I have this mouse on loan from a buddy of mine who got it as his primary gaming mouse. So he let me borrow it to play with for a while. I'll start off with the general specifications. It is 5 inches in length, 2.76 inches in width, and 1.73 inches at its highest point, and weighs about 0.33 pounds or 148 grams if you're going to go with that. It has a 7-foot braided cable with a gold-plated USB plug for quote-unquote better connectivity. It has 5 programmable buttons, being left click and forward click and back click, left click and right click, and a center mouse button. As I said, totally programmable using their Synapse proprietary software. But I'll get into that a little later. Right now I'll just cover the specifications. Now we'll touch on some of the other points. Underside here you have 3 ultra slick feet, so you have 2 in the front and a big heel one here. It does mouse quite nicely, smoothly. On the top here you probably do notice that it is a matte finish. This is because it is a rubberized, textured finish. Very smooth, no grip issues, and doesn't really attract fingerprints, unlike the sides here, which are high gloss finish, and the front. So they do attract fingerprints and hand crud as well if you play for extensive amount of time. You'll notice at the top the left click and right click have flared places for your fingers to sit on, as well as deep finger grooves to sit in. I really like that. You really don't have to worry about where your fingers are sitting to click this. In fact, you can even click it as far back as almost the highest point. Let's see. It is sculpted for right-hand use, as you can see there, with the swoosh in that way, and the back slightly tapered off to the right. So your hand rests on it, thusly. Now, I really should mention that while this is a white scroll wheel, one of the big selling points with the Razer series stuff is that the scroll wheel, mousing wheel, whatever you want to call it, and there's a little symbol there you might be able to see actually light up, and I will turn those on now. I really left them off only because the camera was having difficulties focusing. Alright, so that would be the initial blinking on. Let me do that so you can actually see, because the lighting's not great. So the DeathAdder icon down there will pulsate, while the top scroll wheel will just maintain a steady blue. Now, because it is white, it does concern me that this will, over time, get really gross and nasty with, years of use. As I said, this was given to me by my buddy so I could play and test it out, because I was actually considering at one point getting this mouse, but he got it, so he let me borrow it. Before he let me borrow it for my testing purposes, he has about 191 click hours of Diablo 3, and before that, about 3 straight months of playing Diablo 2 from morning till night and even overnight. So the clicks do hold up very nicely. The side buttons here are very big compared to other mice, which is nice, and you'll notice that you sit, when you hold the mouse, your finger kind of naturally hangs out over them. To me, that's both a good and bad feature, only because if I'm not paying attention, I might click on them while I'm actually mousing. In fact, when I'm not gaming, my thumb tends to sit underneath the buttons, and when I do that, it kind of rubs against whatever surface I happen to be mousing over. Now, It is a infrared sensor, which makes it highly precise. However, at higher DPIs, because this can change DPIs from a minimum of 800 to a maximum of 3,500 or 3,500 DPI, depending on how you want to look at that, which you can change on the fly using the programmable buttons. However, at a higher DPI, if you are not using a mouse pad, if you're just putting this on a flat surface like this table here or another surface, you're going to see mouse skippage, which I really hadn't noticed with any of my other mice. But with this particular one, for whatever reason, because the sensor is so touchy, or sensitive if you want to call it that, at higher DPIs, the mouse would skip around and not stay where I wanted it to. Also, if you get a hair or something over in the optical area, it will throw the mouse off, which is something that I ran into, didn't know about. Was giving me trouble for a couple of days, but I flipped it over, took a look at the sensor there, and there was a hair from one of my cats hanging out there, so it was throwing off the mousing on screen. So, like I said, it's totally programmable using the proprietary Synapse software. So why don't I show you a little bit about that before I finish up with the rest of the review. This is a look at the Synapse 2.0 proprietary software that comes with Razer products. Here you can see this is actually the main screen, and as with most proprietary products, you can change each and every one of the buttons. The left, well, you can't change the left click, but you can change right click, the middle scroll. You can change the scroll wheel on this one to do other things aside from scrolling, which you have to use the scroll up or scroll down to change the DPI function, which I don't particularly care for, but you're not going to get proprietary buttons on this particular program, and since I didn't do anything, it shot up an error message. What I do like with the Synapse program is that it's cloud-based, so it saves your features over the internet, so that if you plug this mouse into any other computer, you just log into your Synapse account, and you get the drivers installed onto the computer, and you get your profile with the settings. Now, with the settings in mind, here you can see you can select different profiles. I have 3 profiles that I use while playing with this mouse. Everyday web browsing, Eve, and Diablo 3. Each of these change what the buttons do and how the mouse performs, the sensitivity of the DPI, and all of that. Here is something else I like, this link to program. In this case, when I select one of the profiles, I can actually have that profile hooked up to a exe file or a program, and what that'll do is that will change based on the starting of a program how the mouse will function, which is really cool. So if you're into Photoshop or whatever, you start that program, you can load up the mouse with however you have it set for that without having to change the items on the computer itself. Next I'll go to performance. Here you can change the sensitivity and the acceleration of the mouse. And here you can configure the stages. So when you actually do change the DPI, you can have it set for 4, or you can drop it down to just a 2-stage DPI. So you have everyday movement or all the time movement, and then your slower or smaller DPI for that precision accuracy that you're looking for. This last area here is the lighting effects. Now, as you can see, the mouse has no lights on because of the particular profile I'm in, and if you look in the upper right, you can also see the mouse does not have any of the lights on. But if we change it, you'll notice that the blue scroll wheel is now lit in the upper right, as well as if I turn the logo on, now the logo will start pulsating. You can kind of see it there. And then you can turn them off again. So it's back to not blinking. So it will save you a little extra power. Synapse also allows you to create macros. I did not play with this function because I am not currently playing any games or using any software that I would really need macros for. Down here in the lower left, you'll notice it has the particular mouse that I'm using, the Razer DeathAdder 3.5G. as well as you will be able to cycle through other Razer products. So your Synapse profile is going to keep all of your products on hand, on the list. So you plug it in, you just select the mouse you want, and then it'll change your mouse based on the features. I really, really like the Synapse software over something like the Logitech Setpoint software. And yeah, that's about it. This will probably change if they do an update, so this is kind of like a snapshot in time for the Synapse 2.0 software. With the Synapse software, as you saw, and the mouse itself, it is compatible with both PC and Macs. For PCs, it's compatible with XP, Vista, and Windows 7, and for Macs, you're looking at OS X or above, and you're going to need internet connectivity just because of the way that the Synapse software was designed. Now, I did forget to mention earlier that it is a fairly substantial mouse, so it does take a beating, as I can see from when I got it. It does have some battle damage on it because he kind of carries this around with him everywhere. And that leads me to another point, which is this braided cord here. Well, at first I thought the braid was really, really cool and was going to offer up extra level of protection to the cord itself. What we run into is it has this issue with the choke points where it was, there we go, the choke points where it was folded, not being able to unfold themselves. In fact, just give me 1 second. I'm going to, so what I'm showing you here is this is actually a particularly bad piece in the cable for a choke point, and looks like what happened was it got fairly bent, and because of the fiber overlay here, the weave that's on top, you cannot actually stretch it back out because it's preventing it from returning to its straightened shape. And if you look closely, you might be able to see underneath there, that's just plastic. So you're actually just paying for a fiber overlay on top of a plastic sheath. Just for a size comparison, put it next to Logitech MX518 gaming mouse, so you can kind of get an idea size-wise between the two different mice. And now for my personal preferences, I do like the mouse. If you get it right from Razer, it's $59 plus shipping and tax and all that fun stuff. You can find it elsewhere for about $47. It's a good everyday gaming mouse, or just a straight-up gaming mouse. If you're interested, I would say go for it.